Morning, you guys, it's Karen, and I've got my cup of tea here, which I was just trying to see if I could drink without slurping. Isn't that terrible? It's a really bad habit, but I don't know why. I find it really difficult to drink tea without slurping. Let me see. And you know, I can do it. It's obviously, I rush it, you know, I drink it too quickly. Anyway, I wanted to come and chat to you guys about a health issue that has come up that I don't think I've talked about too much, certainly on this channel before. And I'm so annoyed at myself. I'm so disappointed in myself. I've had tears over this, and I now feel a lot better, and I now feel I've got a different mental attitude, which is going to help weight loss, which I'll talk you through as well. But it also may get worse this week. So this is all to do with my sugar balance, and I may now be fully diabetic. Let me give you a quick history. I have polycystic ovary syndrome, which you guys know, and I've seen a specialist about it over the years. And ironically, you go to the diabetic clinic because it is an endocrine hormone imbalance. I was diagnosed when I was 20 and I'm now 47, but I went to see another specialist when I was working in the hospital. I actually worked with him, and I arranged to go and see him. It was a little bit weird because I'd been in meetings with this guy, and then here I needed to speak about periods and, you know, personal things. But it was because my acne was really bad. You know, my skin was so bad, it was really getting me down. So I went to see him. He wanted to do an insulin test on me. So I had an insulin test, and he diagnosed me with having hyperinsulinemia. And so not all, but some people with polycystic ovary syndrome have this hyperinsulinemia. And it just means basically that although my body does release insulin, the receptors don't work properly. And so I can still have hypos, and I can, you know, my body doesn't deal with sugar very well. So he put me on metformin, which is a diabetic medication, and I used it for probably about 6 months, but it didn't make any difference to my weight. It didn't make any difference to my skin, and actually I felt bloody awful, and I was getting more hypos than I'd ever had before. And I think I was doing too much exercise, because I would walk. The hospital I was at, there was no buses, and I was trying to lose weight, and so I would walk, and it was an hour each way. I would walk, sometimes a little bit more than that, you know. And I remember I would get to about 10 minutes away from the house, and thankfully there was a little newsagent, and I would literally be like, right, that's me having a hypo, because it comes on so quickly. You can feel it, and the minute you're like, I think I'm gonna have a hypo, it's almost too late, because it then takes about 10 minutes for whatever you're eating or drinking to kick in. And I should have had something on me. Since then I've had, you know, Glucostop on me. Anyway, so that was probably 4 or 5 years ago. When I went back and said metformin wasn't working, he gave me cyproterone. And you guys know I have talked about being on cyproterone. I've never done a whole video on it. I'm quite happy to. And it's something that's really worked for me for my acne. It's just, you know, I don't really suffer with it anymore. But I did also, in finding out that I had such problems with sugar, I did change to a low carbohydrate diet. But when I say low carb, I wasn't ever counting carbs, and I wasn't ever as fully aware of carbs as I thought I was. I've learned a lot more since being on keto. But I was eating low carb in terms of, I'm just going to turn this camera around a minute because the sun is kind of blinding me. Hopefully it'll still be light enough. So my idea of low carb was I cut out all white stuff. So I didn't have white bread. I haven't had white bread, white pasta, white rice for many, many years. So, you know, we got wholemeal pasta, which at first was really, really chewy, but then we quickly got used to it. Wholemeal bread, that was okay. And we would have brown basmati rice. And I would also try and make my lunches and breakfasts kind of more protein heavy. And so for lunch, like I've told you before, I would have mackerel and egg, or salmon and egg, or mackerel and beetroot, and, you know, things like that. Breakfast, I thought I was having a protein breakfast. I had a yogurt and almonds and a little bit of agave in it, and I thought that was low carb. I know now that the agave was nowhere near low carb, and the yogurt actually isn't that low carb either. But the almonds definitely did help. And I used to put cinnamon in it as well, thinking, you know, that will help because that's supposed to help blood sugar. And my meals weren't too bad either. You know, like I said, we'd have wholemeal. I wouldn't have as much rice and pasta as I used to have. And I also managed to cut out my daily sugar hit, because I've had a chocolate bar every day of my life for as long as I can remember, up until, like I said, 4 or 5 years ago. And I just stopped having that because I was like, if my body's not dealing with sugar, that's not a great thing to be doing. That's why I was so annoyed when I'd have this hypo and I'd have to go into the newsagents and I'd buy chocolate, you know, to try and stop this hypo. I guess the last year or two, my diet has just not been great at the weekends and in snacking in the evening. I've told you guys I eat pretty healthy still. You know, I'd have a protein shake for breakfast, or it isn't a protein shake you can have on keto, but it is a protein shake. It is more protein than carbs, but it's got too many carbs in it to have on keto. I would still have my salmon for lunch or my mackerel or whatever. And our dinners would be, again, quite low carb. The problem is I love McDonald's. I love their frappes. I love apple pies. Chicken nuggets are normally what I eat, so that's not too bad. Or I would have a burger and chips, which is bad. And we would have takeaways at the weekend, you know, we'd have pizzas and Indians. And then in the evening, I would eat crisps and drink alcohol. So that has just kind of got out of control over the last little while. And you guys watching this have been right here with me, because you've seen I've tried to switch to keto, but that just got too labor intensive, I suppose you could say, or too restrictive, or both. And I ended up saying to you guys, as is the case, it's not about which diet I do. I just need to get to a place where I don't feel I have to have snacks and a drink every evening. Even if it is just a Diet Coke that I'm having, I normally like to accompany that with, when I'm on keto, it would be salted peanuts or the cheesy things I make or something like that. You know, I needed to get out of that habit. But I was saying that and still eating the same. And, you know, today I'm 84 kilos. So my weight hasn't budged in a couple of months, which, like some of you say, is probably a good thing. And I should probably give myself a bit of slack for that. But because I have this hyperinsulinemia, like I said, I have hypos now and again, sometimes when I'm walking Watson, and I have to test I don't have to, but the doctor suggested that I test my blood sugar now and then, just to make sure that I don't go into being diabetic. So I've been feeling terrible for about the last 3 or 4 weeks. More so than usual, because I've usually got these headaches that are knocking me out from lunchtime for the rest of the day. But it's got to a point where I was getting up and feeling awful as soon as I got up. I'd feel awful the whole day. I'd lie down. That wouldn't make me feel better. I'd still feel awful after that. In fact, I'd feel worse. And so I thought, you know what? I'm just going to test my sugar and see, is there any change in my sugar balance? And there is. So I tested it the first morning, and actually it wasn't that long ago I tested it. I tested it a couple of months ago and it was fine. But I tested it in the morning. I did a fasting test, and it was 7. And, you know, I've got the chart that the nurse gave me to show me when you become diabetic, and it's 6.5, I think it is. 5.5. Can't remember now, but it's definitely 7 is definitely diabetic. There's then another figure for after eating. So 2 hours after eating, what is your blood sugar? So I did that test as well, but that test came back as normal. My blood sugar was normal. And so I was a bit confused, and I thought, well, am I or am I not? Because the fasting one, I did it then for 3 days in a row, and it kept showing the same thing. My fasting blood glucose was too high. My glucose 2 hours after eating, even if I included sugar, because one day I did it without sugar, another with sugar, responded fine. So I went to the GP. I have an issue with GPs in that the ones I've loved, I've talked to you about this before, have left. And the GP that I'm seeing the most regularly at the moment is the one that does the acupuncture for my neck, because he's the only person that does it in the GP surgery. So I had an appointment with him 2 days after I had been doing this blood sugar, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to have to go in and say to him, like, instead of having acupuncture, can I talk to you about these results and see what needs to be done? So I went to see him, and I did say to him, I'm really disappointed in myself, because the reason I was so gutted is because everybody in my family is diabetic. My dad is diabetic, and it's kind of a funny story. He told me when I think I was 18 or something at the time, and I was driving, or my boyfriend was driving us from Scotland to Luton, and I cried my eyes out because I didn't know anything about diabetes, you know, and I was really upset. But I have, you know, cared for my dad over the years, and so I know a lot about diabetes, and we had hundreds of diabetes studies in the hospital as well. My auntie is also diabetic and she's had most of her toes removed. My uncle is diabetic. You know, everybody is diabetic. Type 2 diabetes, and type 2 diabetes is something that you cause yourself by being overweight is what I found out to be the issue. It's not just eating sugar. It's actually being overweight because it's how much fat you have in your system and in your body. So I knew that this was something, if I was diabetic, I had caused myself. And so I said to him, right, okay, I took my little monitor and gave it to him and said, these are the results I'm getting. I don't know if that means I'm diabetic or not. And I said, but I'm really disappointed in myself because this is a self-inflicted disease, you know. And I don't know, I suppose I expected some kind of sympathy, but he just went, yes, it is. And you'll need to start exercising. You'll need to, if you are diabetic, you'll need to completely change your diet anyway. You won't have a choice. He was just so stern about it. And I cannot blame him because I am that annoyed at myself. And he is obviously frustrated seeing people come in with a disease that is preventable. And I'm just so frustrated that me of all people with family having such horrendous things happen. I mean, my dad has really bad neuropathy, diabetic neuropathy, so his nerves have been damaged by the out of balance sugars. And like I said, my auntie, who always loved to wear like flip-flops and sandals, even in winter, she never ever wore shoes, but of course now she has to because she's had her toes removed because of the diabetes. And it's just, I should know better. And you know, I've been making so many excuses, like, oh, keto takes too much time to cook things and it's too restrictive, and I like to have something in the evening, so I'm going to have to replace it with something. And I was just like, oh, just gutted, absolutely gutted. I was like, I cannot believe you've done this to yourself. And like I said, I don't think him being stern necessarily helped, although I don't blame him. Anyway, what he said I needed, which I kind of knew, was I needed a HB1AC, something like that, test. This is a blood test that, it's amazing that it does this. I'm fascinated. It will take your blood and tell you what the average of your sugar has been over the last 3 months. Isn't that amazing? So how can it do that? There's obviously little markers along the way of you eating that your body holds on to, you know, and that's really scary. So there's nothing I can do now either. That's why it's scary, because the test is in 2 days' time. So on Wednesday, I get this test to see what my average blood sugar has been over the last 3 months. And I know my diet's been terrible over the last 3 months. You know, it's probably 50-50. The 50% of the time where I eat my meals is absolutely fine. They're not massive portions, they're the healthy food. The other 50% of the time, which is the weekends and the evenings, which we have been like starting on a Thursday, oh, let's have a drink now, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Kev's like, I've got 1 beer left, I'll have a beer, and I'm like, right, I'll have a Bacardi then, you know, and still having snacks. So it's 50-50, and so I don't know what it's going to show. You know, the doctor said, yeah, you could well be. It does look like you are from the fasting one, but not from how you process food. So this is the only way to tell. So if I am, whether I am or I'm not, I'm disappointed in myself, because my sugar shouldn't have got this high. I shouldn't have had a close call like this. If I don't have it, I shouldn't have had a close call like this, because like I said, I should know better. And it's self-inflicted for everybody, but like I said, me more so because of my family history. My dad's had 2 heart attacks. One of them, I think they said, was missed because of his diabetic medication, but they could see from the scarring on his heart. Kev's ex-girlfriend was diabetic, so we often talk about that. My ex-boyfriend, Paul, his parents were diabetic. You know, it's not like I don't know. It's not like I don't have the knowledge. So if I'm not, I will be celebrating for sure. I will feel like I have been given a second chance, because I've changed my attitude now. This has really been the kick up the arse that I needed. And it's funny because somebody left a really rude comment and it upset me, and it was saying what you need is to stop making excuses or something like that. But the thing is, she may be right. You know, I was making excuses, or there's too much cooking, or I like to have this and I like to have that. But you've got to be ready, haven't you? You've absolutely got to be ready. So that happens on Wednesday. If I do have it, I will be gutted. I will be absolutely gutted for everything I've just told you. I'll just be so annoyed with myself that I let it get this far. You know, I didn't realise it could happen so quickly. I thought that I could be pre-diabetes before being diabetic, you know, and I don't know, maybe I can, maybe that's what it will come back as, being pre-diabetic, because there's hyperglycemic, then there's pre-diabetic, then there's diabetic. The hyperinsulinemia for some reason doesn't appear on that chart. But what I was saying last week, because this happened last, I think it was Tuesday, so it was in the middle of my holiday, and I was saying, if I am diabetic, I'm sure as hell not going to take metformin for the rest of my life, and I will reverse my diabetes with diet, because I know that that is possible. So I've been looking into that heavily, and yeah, either way, things have got to change, you know, and I was like, right, either way, whether I do or do not have it, things have got to change now. This is it. This is my kind of warning light. So even though I was on holiday, I started to change some things last week, and we sat and had long conversations, myself and Kev, and I was just like, how am I going to do this? I said, because food for me is almost my reason for getting out of bed. You know, I've said that to you guys before. I get up and I look forward to my breakfast. I then look forward to lunch. I then look forward to dinner. I then look forward to my snacks. It's literally what I enjoy in life. And Kev is not like that at all. And I was like, I wish I had his mentality. You know, like if we go out for dinner and he had a meal and he didn't enjoy it, he wouldn't feel disappointed. He'd just be like, oh, well, I've tried it, you know. Whereas I would feel let down. I'd be like, oh no, what a waste of a nice meal, you know. Food is just, he does enjoy food, and he's bad with beer and snacks, the same as I am. But food to him is a sustenance, you know, and that's how I kind of wish I was. But food is my, like I said, it's my enjoyment in life. And so I said to him, it's not about the diet. It's not about what I do. It's about this mentality. And I said, how am I going to change this mentality? So Kev, bless him, actually looked up a few different places, and he found this one, because he's always said, he agrees with me, I need a psychologist really to help me change my mentality. So he found one place that did therapy on big life changes. And he said to me, you know, although there's a lot of weight loss coaches and things like that, but they normally are attached to an eating plan and educating you about eating. And I know that I need my brain changing. I do know what diets work, and I know what I should eat and what I shouldn't. I just don't have the motivation to do it. So he said, you know, if it does come back that you're diabetic, that will be like a life-changing event. And so maybe you can go and see this person. So we said that that's what we do. But I said to him, I have gathered some other evidence. You know, I've done a bit of a Google search myself, and I've got a few things. One was a blog about changing the way that you think about food. One was a podcast, and one was a YouTube channel using like the law of attraction. I watched the law of attraction one, and I didn't really get anything from it, to be honest. She just seemed to be saying that if you believe the food will make you fat, it will make you fat. And I thought, I don't get that. You know, she was almost saying, go with your authentic self. If I went with my authentic self and what I want to eat, I'd be in big trouble. So that wasn't that great. The blog was pretty good, but it sort of referred to a lot of other places. And I listened to this podcast, and I didn't even listen to the whole podcast. I didn't have time. I listened to half of it that day. And it was basically saying, and I've heard this before, that you have to identify what your beliefs are, and then you have to challenge those beliefs. So if you believe that you need to be eating all the time, then, which is one of the things I think if I'm not doing something, I need to be eating. So during the day, I could easily go hours without having lunch and not have my lunch till 2-3 o'clock because I'm so busy. But in the evening, in order to sit down and watch something with Kev, I'm normally eating because I have to be doing something, you know. I'm not somebody that can just sit and relax. And I thought, well, that's something that needs to change in itself, because I never relax. And there's a lot of dog related things going on to do with that as well. It would be good if I could learn to relax. But I thought, you've got to challenge that belief. So my belief is I can't miss out on food, but the evidence shows that there's lots of times I've gone without food and it hasn't been awful. But I said, my biggest belief is that I can't enjoy life without having junk food and alcohol or Diet Coke, which isn't great in itself. I have the caffeine-free stuff, but you know, there's still sweeteners and whatnot. It'd still be better to drink water, and some kind of snacks in the evening. That I can't enjoy life. That I can't enjoy life if I can't enjoy the weekend if we're not having takeaways or you know, bad meals that I really enjoy. And that was my belief. And what this podcast was saying was, it's just a belief to do with what's happened till now. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to explain it exactly as I heard it, because like I said, I've heard it many times before and it's not sunk in. But this time I was like, okay, why don't you, instead of like going, right, tomorrow night I'm just going to have nothing, why don't you go, instead of having half a bag of Muchos or Doritos or whatever, why don't you just have a couple of Parmesan crisps, like make some Parmesan crisps, or just have a handful of nuts, and you can still have Bacardis, but why don't you, instead of having 3, which I normally do on holiday, why don't you have 2 and make it a little bit less? Because I normally have 30 ml, which is just a little bit more than a single measure. So I made 25 ml, I had 2 instead of 3, and I just had a handful of nuts. And I did not miss the crisps. And I was just like, this is just a massive breakthrough for me. Massive, you know. And Kev, bless him, has been saying he's really proud of me, because we do eat a lot of McDonald's when we're out walking Watson, because the way that it works with Watson is he'll be due his second walk and ready to leave the house about 11:30. So we'll drive somewhere, get there for 12 o'clock, have an hour's walk, say, or, you know, an hour and a half, whatever. It's normally about 2 o'clock and we're like, now we're starving, we both need to eat. So because of my fussiness, there's not really many places we can go, and we've got Watson, so it needs to be a drive-through. That's why we end up at McDonald's a lot of the time. I've never, with Kev, gone through a drive-through and not got a frappe. It's just always been my weakness. And a lot of the time it's a burger and chips and a frappe, or even chicken nuggets and a frappe. And I've even sometimes had an apple pie as well. So again, with me being on holiday, normally my attitude is, even if finding out I've got the high sugars, my attitude would normally be like, you know what, I'll start next Monday. The diet starts next Monday. But we went to McDonald's twice, and both times I got chicken nuggets and a Diet Coke, and that was it. And Kev was like, oh my God, I'm so proud of you. I've never seen you be like this. I especially wouldn't expect it to be what you would do when you were on holiday, you know, because like I said, normally I'm like an all or nothing girl. But I was like, no, you need to stop feeling hard done by not having that frappe. And again, I'm like, you know what? I don't actually miss it that much. I think something switched in my brain, and it's like, no, life isn't all about food, because if I get diabetes and, you know, the doctor said to me, you can go blind. I mean, he was really obviously trying to scare me, and, you know, it had already worked. I felt like saying to him, you don't need to do that. I already know it's horrific. I don't want it to be diabetes, you know, I'm already scared, don't worry. I've already got heart issues, you know, diabetics have more heart issues and blah, blah, blah. But the only thing I said to my husband was, I hope that it wasn't a temporary situation. Like, you know, if I find out I'm not diabetic, I'm not going to find out until a week on Wednesday, I would say, not until next week. But I said, I hope that if I find out I'm not, that this isn't a short-term thing, that it isn't just that I'm scared and therefore I'm not having my frappe because I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing to my blood? What's my blood results going to be? You know, I hope it's not that. I hope that this is a permanent thing, and it feels more like it is. Like I said, I have never in my life been able to be, what is the word? Been able to hold back from having what I want to eat when I'm on holiday, or even at a weekend. You know, there's just no way I would be like, no, it doesn't matter. I'll eat all of that and then I'll start again on Monday. And somehow I seem to have switched it with just listening to this half, and I know, what is it called? I was going to call it an iPod. What is it called? Podcast. A podcast. I will link the podcast for you. I'll make sure I find it and link it for you. But I'm not saying that it's the magic cure for everybody. I just think you've got to be in the right place, the right time. You know, like the penny's got to drop. And for me, the penny dropped that is only because I'm saying that I can't enjoy life without junk food, that I'm making it true. But if I just think, well, no, I can absolutely enjoy life without junk food, then that will also be true, you know. And I said to Kev, perhaps I'll be obsessed with the gym again, which I have been like that in my life, where I've actually had to be told, don't stop going to the gym as much, you know, you're going too much. And perhaps I'll get obsessed with clothes and things like that. And I'm actually quite excited now about the future and what I'm going to do, you know, because like I said, I'm not waking up thinking, oh, how long will I last on this diet or anything like that. I'm just really focused on getting my sugars down and being healthy. You know, I want to stick around. I want to be here, and I want to feel proud of my body. So I think I've rambled on enough, but let me tell you what I'm actually doing food wise, and what's going on going forward. I looked into keto again, and keto is something that is recommended for diabetics, but I don't know how many, if I do have diabetes, I'll have to go to the diabetic clinic, which is going to be a nightmare. Even that for me, I'm like, oh my God, I know everybody in that clinic, and there's no way I can get past without seeing people that know me, and they haven't seen me at this weight, because when I worked in that department, I was many stones lighter. So that's another reason I really hope I don't have it, but I don't know whether they would recommend it. But from everything I've looked online and whatnot, keto is a good plan, and it's something that can reverse type 2 diabetes. So it doesn't recommend you do it forever. It recommends you do it for an amount of time until your sugar is under control, and then you switch to under 130 grams of carbs. So you start off on under 30, which is a little bit more than what you should be doing on keto, but you start off under 30, then switch to under 130. So always remain in low carb, basically. And I've known that, but just if you looked at a chart of what I've been eating over the last, say, 2 years, the carbs will be going like this, because there's just been days recently where I've been like, sod it. One example is we used to go to this restaurant when we took Watson for a walk, and we used to always get chili cheese and chips, and we both were obsessed with it. We loved it. It's one of the reasons we loved going on this walk, because just right in the middle of the woods was this great big cafe with leather sofas that Watson could sit on. They weren't like the dog has to sit on the floor. We would go for an hour's walk and then feel like, or actually normally longer than that, and then we'd feel like we were allowed to have this chili cheese and chips. Anyway, we went there for a walk, and the restaurant doesn't do them anymore. This was quite a while ago. And so we said, you know what, let's make our own. So we would have that occasionally at the weekends. But I started having things like that in the week, because we would normally have chili and rice in the week. And I was like, oh, let's just have chili, cheese and chips. Things like that, and so there's the chips. Instead of the brown rice, you've got chips, and you can't have brown chips. And so the chart would just go up and up and up, So I'm doing keto this week, and I'm not saying I'm doing keto forever. I'm not saying I'm doing it for months, weeks, whatever. I just know that whatever I do, I have a different attitude, and I will not be, I'll maybe give myself 2 nights to have 2 Bacardis. If I really want a treat in the evening, I may have one of the Parmesan crisp things that I make, or a handful of nuts, but I'm not going to be buying. I immediately took the crisps and everything off the shopping as well. I haven't had any crisps since last week. And I'm just, whether I'm on keto or whatever I'm on, I'll just be making sure that what I'm putting into my body doesn't have sugar and is good for me. Because the crisps probably don't have sugar, but they're carbohydrates, so they will be converted to sugar, So this week is keto. And the other thing that I'm changing is my priorities need to be gym and cooking a decent meal. Well, not necessarily cooking, but eating a decent meal. I have been saying I don't like cooking, and it's true. I don't like cooking at all. But I've been putting YouTube before everything. I've been getting up in the morning, putting my makeup on, and then filming. If I've got any spare time, I'm filming. And then once that's done, I'm editing the following morning. And I'm like, oh, I haven't got time to go to the gym because I need to edit. Whereas now, this week, as long as I'm feeling healthy, because I don't know how my head's going to be this week, or I don't know how I'm going to feel, because I felt bloody awful still last week, by the way, until I had 2 sugar-free days, and then I didn't feel so bad. And my headache wasn't as bad. So I was like, this might, be the reason why I felt so rubbish for so long. So I'm going to prioritise going to the gym, prioritise making dinner, and try and enjoy it. And I was saying to Kev, I think the problem with me is every time I've tried to do cooking, I don't do it long enough to where I get somewhere where I know what the ingredients are and I know how to cook it. I'm always having to follow a recipe and go, right, okay, 40 grams of this, chop that, and that's not an enjoyable experience. I think once you get to know a recipe and you can just make it, it's a much more enjoyable experience and less time consuming, So that's what I'm going to try and do. I'm going to try and prioritise making dinner, prioritise exercise. And the final thing that I'm going to do is I'm trying to make dinners that I'm making for 2 days. So today I'm making a keto pork samboy chow. So it's a Chinese dish that is pork mince which I would like to try with corn mince, to be honest. But one step at a time, with some onion and what else is in it? I can't think what else is in it. Anyway, there's a lot of like sauces and stuff, and then you wrap it in a lettuce leaf and it's delicious. But I'm making enough for 2 days. So tomorrow we'll have a dinner already done. And then I'm going to do corned beef hash, which is just corned beef sliced and then a little bit of green pepper and there's some cauliflower rice, and I'll make 2 days worth of that as well. That should make things a lot easier. So that's the plan. Like I said, I'm super excited. At the moment, I've got over the shock of what I've done to myself, and I'm just in determined mode and like, right, I'm gonna, lose loads of weight and I'll feel much better, and I can't wait to enjoy clothes again and to not feel embarrassed every time I open the door. And even this morning, because this top is it's a very tight top. I'm going to show you because I will be doing before and afters, and I was just like, oh, I'm so embarrassed to answer the door to the walker and things like that, so I'm really excited to change that. But after Wednesday, we'll see. I will, of course, come and update you at some point as to what's going on. I'll probably put it on Instagram, to be honest. That's where I do a lot of my updating and life updates. So if you're really interested, check out my Instagram page or Facebook, because my Instagram posts to my Facebook page as well. So either of those. Yeah, love to hear your thoughts on it all. I know Kev has been, telling me I'm being too hard on myself and the doctor did even agree with this. He said, you do have a genetic predisposition to this condition, because there is, like there are people that are very, very overweight that don't have diabetes, it just depends on your genetic makeup. So I know that I should give myself a little bit of a break in that I was predisposed to get it, but I was predisposed to get it if I made the wrong choices, and I made the wrong choices. But, I've had my little wallow, and I've hit myself a few times, not actually hit myself, but you know what I mean. And I'm back into action mode. So yeah, love to hear from you, especially if you are diabetic. Tell me about your medication. I would love to know, because I don't want to take metformin, and I'm wondering if I should try liraglutide, which also helps with weight loss, but it's apparently got some unpleasant side effects and whatnot. I'm always thinking like way ahead, and it's never, not always needed. It's like, well, I might not even be diabetic, so I probably shouldn't be looking into medications just now. Yeah, that's everything. Thank you so much for listening. Sorry this was such a long video, and I'll speak to you again soon.